Yes, good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. We are here to preview Saturday's Scottish Cup final at Hampden against Inverness. It's a 5:30 kick-off and Celtic are on the verge of an 8th domestic treble. I've got Chris here with me to look ahead to the game and, Chris, discuss anything else going on around Celtic at the minute. I'm sure there's a couple of things to go over. First of all, we did have Trophy Day last weekend. What a brilliant day. What a great performance as well. After the sticky patch, after sealing the title, the team put on a great performance. It was a fantastic day. I just want to give a shout out before we get the video underway, Chris, to everybody in Malone's last weekend that came up with compliments and so many kind comments about the channel. It was absolutely brilliant. What a night we had celebrating. So, Chris, just before we look ahead to the final, your thoughts on last week's game? What a brilliant way to round off what was a brilliant league campaign.
Yeah, a ton of similarities, Paul. So the last time I was at a Trophy Day when I still lived back in Scotland was Martin O'Neill's second season in charge, and we beat Livingston 5-0 on the last day of the season. Henrik Larsson scored a hat-trick that day.
Other goal scorers that day?
Yeah, Larsson. I think Larsson had a hat-trick, and I think John Hartson had 2 goals as well in that game, if my memory serves me right. I didn't look that up, but I may or may not be exactly recalling that, but I do believe.
I was thinking Paul Lambert got one. I don't know why.
He maybe did. So maybe Larsson 2, Hartson 2, and Lambert 1 might well have been, but it was 5-0, and it was just same thing, right? You're just there to have an amazing day. Shout out to the Green Brigade for that amazing tifo that they organised. That was just absolutely incredible.
It was fantastic.
And before I comment on the game, I just would like to double down on what Callum said on his closing comments about just the incredible work that you do, Paul, behind the scenes. Like, truly nobody understands what it takes to be a full-time husband, father, job, and running a channel with the amount of content that you put out. And I feel privileged to be a part of this still, even though I'm 3,500 miles away living in Canada as a Scotsman. You do an amazing job. You deserve everything that the channel gives you. So thanks, and keep up the great work. It's awesome.
Thank you, mate. I'm humbled. That's enough about me, though.
Yeah, fantastic finishing day. Like, really, you could see that the players wanted to give the fans a fantastic performance. I think Ange was probably demanding the levels get back to where we've been used to them, because it's human nature. You work so hard to earn something, there naturally is going to be a drop off. And I think we saw that after we won the league against Hearts. Just, we obviously changed the team at Ibrox, no fans. We didn't play well. We deserved to get beat. But even, some of the other results, drawing at home and then losing away to Hibs, having been in front, just not really, our usual selves. So I think Ange picked pretty much close to his strongest 11. Obviously, Cameron Carter-Vickers, we know, is not available for selection. And I felt like the players delivered a performance the fans deserved after their backing this season, and a great way to cap off an amazing league campaign where, we bettered our goals for against tally from last year. We bettered our points tally, number of wins, lots and lots of positives. And Ange met his commitments of, we will be back bigger, stronger, and better. And I don't think any Celtic fan could objectively disagree with the manager's statement.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great performance. Much more like what we've become accustomed to under Ange Postecoglou. Interested though to hear today that Kyogo hasn't changed since that game. That was news to me. He did get, I think it was goals 32 and 33 last weekend. Chris, you shouted for 35 at the start of the season, so you'll be hoping he's fit for a brace at the weekend.
Yeah, that was my bold prediction. I said Kyogo would score 35 goals in all competitions. So, I mean, my gut feeling is Ange is going to have a very hard time keeping Kyogo out of the starting 11 if he doesn't finish the first half or doesn't finish, the game. So be it. But I fully expect him to be in the starting 11. Because at the end of the day, he's got the summer to recover from. I suspect it's just a heavy knock. I think is probably what he's managing, or maybe it's a high ankle sprain, just depending on how severe it is. But I'd be shocked if he's not in the starting lineup. And hey, he went into the League Cup final last season against Hibs with a partially torn hamstring and managed to score 2 unbelievable goals. So I wouldn't put anything past him.
Aye, absolutely. And we know he's fond of a brace in a cup final, isn't he? He's already had 2 in his short time at Celtic, so he may well get another if he is to be fit and start on Saturday. We may as well address the elephant in the room just now, Chris, before we go on. Ange Postecoglou was obviously asked more than a few times today about these links with the job at Tottenham. I covered it a wee bit last week in the starting 11. We tried to steer clear of it in the post-match pint because it was about celebrating the season and enjoying the day. I really don't know where I'm at with it, because I think if you were to read social media, you'd think they'd already been unveiled down at Tottenham. I haven't seen anything really further credible. I think the big one was the Independent story last week that he was the primary target after they missed out on the Feyenoord manager. I think anything's really changed a great deal since then. It's just we've entered the phase where everybody microanalyzes every word that comes out of his mouth, his body language. Could what he's saying mean this? Or why hasn't he said this? Because surely if he's not saying that, then that means he's definitely away. And if only he would just say that, then we don't know. We don't know, but where are you at with it?
So one thing I'll say for Ange is he has consistently answered these questions the same way every time. So in that sense, Paul, he has never veered from the answer, right? It doesn't register with me. I'm focused on the next game. That has been consistently how he answered the questions yesterday, even when another creative journalist tried to ask the question a different way and Ange called him out on it and said, but good for you for asking the question, but just in a different way. Naturally, a manager who has done well in a very short space of time, which is what Spurs are going to need with their club. You know, they are one of the bigger teams in the Premier League. In my eyes, they're not a bigger football club than Celtic. But obviously, out of the top 5 teams, it's objectively the biggest job that's available in the Premiership. So naturally, he has now been, called out as potentially being the preferred candidate. But that's all it is. It's the preferred candidate. Ultimately, Ange's focus is on this weekend. Once that cup final is out of the way, he is on a 12-month rolling contract. So there will be a discussion about his contract regardless of whether he's going to leave to go explore other opportunities or if he's going to stay on at Celtic. Now, we all know, I, like probably every other Celtic fan, of course we want Ange to stay. His work here is not yet done. I said this to you privately yesterday when we were chatting about the show today, and I'll share it here. I still come back to what Ange said. You will be surprised how long I will be here. And the context of that comment was not in a negative light. It was he feels he has a certain job and a certain distance he wants to take his teams, but he's done it internationally. He's done it in Japan. Granted, if I was to take my Celtic hat off, objectively going into the Premiership and managing there, it's a bigger challenge week after week. But is it? Because at Celtic, you have to win every single week because that is the expectation. And as I also mentioned to you yesterday, Paul, you said it right. It's almost like a cult. He is revered. He is revered by the fan base, probably more so than even Brendan Rodgers was, maybe even equal to or more than Martin O'Neill was. And not really since Tommy Burns has there been a love and affection, in my opinion. And don't get me wrong, Tommy didn't have the same results, but he was beloved as a Celtic player and as a Celtic man, but Ange isn't a Celtic man in terms of his background and his upbringing, but he has that level of reverence amongst the fan base. So my gut feeling is I don't think he's going anywhere. I could turn out to be TV'd with this comment, and if so, then so be it. I will take it on the chin. But just to me, he has consistently answered that question of it's not in my thought process. My focus is on the game. That's not changed in my eyes. Like that tone, that answer has not veered. If something develops in the next week or so, only time will tell.
Aye, I think he has answered it in much the same way he's answered other links this season, but I think the other links this season there's been absolutely nothing in them, really. It's just they've been throwing his name to a vacant job because he was doing well. I do think there's more in this. I'll say what I said to you. You just said that what you said yesterday on the phone, and I said to you, he said that quote about you'll be surprised how long I'm here without a Spurs contract sitting in front of him. And I said this straight out of the gate that if he gets an offer put in front of him from Spurs, I think it would be difficult for him to reject. I could see him taking it, absolutely. The difficulty now is I think the support feel like it's dragging on, even though it's only really been a week, and most people have made their mind up on gut feel. So half the people think he's staying, and we love him, and he loves it here, and why would he want to leave? And then the other half think, well, he's away, and we've also entered the realm of somebody. Everybody knows somebody who's in the know. It's like transfers. Everybody spoke to somebody who knows somebody that works at the club, and he's definitely away. Or you speak to somebody else and they've spoke to somebody else at the club and he's definitely staying. Nobody knows. I think what's clear is the interest is serious. I would expect them to talk to him. I don't expect him to answer it. He's not going to come out in a press conference and say, by the way, I'm not going, 100% not going there. That's never how a football manager answers these questions. They can't answer it like that. They have to be political about it. They can't seem disrespectful to any other club, really, because why would other clubs want to offer them a job if that was the way they dealt with that sort of speculation? And I think equally, on the other hand, they can't just come out and say, by the way, 100% I'm here regardless next season. That's also not the way football managers speak either. And I understand why they have to be quite political about it. It's not how we thought we would finish the season with this backdrop. But as I say, we'll just need to wait and see how it develops. My gut feel, because that's all we've got to go on. That's what everybody's commenting their gut feel. You've talked about yours. Mine is, as it has been, that if he gets offered that job, it'll be extremely difficult for him to turn it down. And objectively, we can say that the English Premier League's overhyped and it's all about on Sky's TV money, and that is true. But I don't think we can deny that he would be tested much more tactically week in and week out in that league. And if he wants to get to the absolute highest level in Europe, then who could deny that that's a good step to take? We as Celtic supporters want him to stay forever. We don't think there's a better job or a bigger job than managing Celtic, but we need to remember, and we've seen it before, we view it as supporters of the club, Ange, as much as we love him, as a football manager, and it's his job to work here. And I think I seen someone sharing this quote about Josip Juranovic when he left, and he said Josip was quite late to get into the highest level in Europe, and he wants to go as far as he can, and who can really deny him that? And I think that's how we should all be. And again, you can go back and read too much into anything that he's ever said that can apply to this situation. But I also think he's at a stage in his career where if he wants to take that step, then, like I say, it'd be a difficult opportunity for him to turn down. Moving on, Inverness on Saturday. The showpiece, nobody's happy, it seems, about the 5:30 kickoff time. I couldn't believe that Ian Maxwell came out and answered the questions the way he answered them about the kickoff time, because he was saying it without saying it, that we didn't want to move either. We just had to move it because the FA Cup final kicks off at 3. So I don't think Andy's happy with the kick-off time, Chris, but I'm not sure if you're aware, it's actually brilliant weather here in Glasgow, so it should still be a showpiece at Hampden and hopefully a brilliant day.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, kickoff time aside, I mean, so Canada, where I live, is 5 hours behind. So objectively,
Perfect for you.
middle of the day is like perfect for me. But obviously, I heard that the weather is supposed to be fantastic this weekend in Glasgow, and that's not going to take away from what is the showpiece end to the Scottish season. And I couldn't really care much about the FA Cup. Granted, it's a derby game, whatever, but I'm more focused on what's in front of us, and it's a chance for Ange to put himself amongst some of the Celtic greats, to be the 5th manager that would have won a treble, right? And that's no mean feat, and it's a chance to really obviously set a world record. No other club in world football has 8 trebles. It would be our 5th treble in 8 seasons, which is just a remarkable record unto itself. So it's so much to look forward to. And last year it was painful to lose the cup semi-final and not have a chance to go for a treble. Which I think objectively, if someone had said we'd win 2 trophies and have a semi-final, given how we started the year last year, we would have definitely taken it. But this is a fantastic opportunity, and I think that's why Ange has just been 100% focused in his comments about, his potential future and links to clubs. Like, no, I need to focus on what's in front of us, and we have an opportunity to do something very, very special, to continue to cement the club's legacy as the greatest football club in the world.
Just want to touch on Jamie's comment. I think he's right, by the way. Historically, it has been the week before. I don't know if the World Cup being in the middle of the season and the rearranged fixtures has brought this about, but it is what it is. It's a great opportunity for us to go and seal it. It's rare to win a treble, despite the fact that we've done it so often in recent years. It is extremely rare if you go back to that first treble under Brendan Rodgers, the Invincible treble. It had been 16 years since the club last won one, and you need to go back even further before Martin O'Neill's won as well. So we can't forget, just because it's been frequent in the last 6 or 7 years, how rare this is. Chris, Inverness, we know they finished 6th in the Championship. We're obviously heavy favourites coming into the game. We'll have 3/4 or if not more of the crowd as well. Quite strange though for Inverness, because they haven't played since May the 5th. A 2-1 defeat to Ayr United. How do you think that changes their approach to the game, their build up? Do you think they're going to be fresh and up and at it, or do you think they're going to be lacking some form of sharpness that we can really punish?
I mean, I know they finished 6th, but 2 points separated 2nd from 6th in that table, right? So objectively, they were within striking distance of getting themselves into those playoff games with a chance to still be playing competitive football. I mean, undoubtedly they've been playing some bounce games, but there is nothing quite the same as playing competitive football, keeping up your rhythm and all of those things, right? So I think how they're able to weather the first 15 to 20 minutes of this cup final will ultimately decide whether it's going to be a somewhat close game or if we blow them out. I mean, if we play to our form, we should be winning this game comfortably. But like we've said before on this show, albeit about derby games and semi-finals and cup finals, often these can be really close. I mean, 2 of our treble-winning cup finals, we beat Hearts 2-1. We then tied 3-3 and won on penalties. Like, those are pretty fine margins. Albeit the gulf in available players and quality of players is huge. Being a division apart obviously speaks for itself. And the fact that we've been playing, although we've won the league a few weeks ago, we're still playing every week and have the opportunity to be training to prepare to play. I think that is going to objectively really work against Billy Dodds and his team. But it's a cup final. So emotion and everything else will have them up for the game. They'll be ready to play when the kick of the ball and the start of the game starts. But if we play to our potential, it's just there's no way they're going to live with us. There's just not. And this whole thing about they beat us back in 2000 and whatever, it's not relevant. It's not relevant at all in the current game context.
Well, that was my next question, because obviously the big thing you have to guard against, particularly in a cup final when you're such heavy favourites, is complacency.
Yeah.
And while it doesn't apply to these players, these squads, these managers, if there was a club you could pick that Celtic need to guard against complacency, that history would tell you need to guard against complacency against them, it's Inverness, because I can think of 3 right off the top of my head, high profile times where a bad performance or a bad decision or a defeat against them has cost Celtic dearly. Obviously, the first one back in 99-2000 at Celtic Park, the 3-2 game, John Barnes era, the 3-2 game under Neil Lennon, when we were on the cusp of winning the title in Lennon's first season. We get beat 3-2 up there, and obviously the game under Ronnie Dyler, the semi-final with the Josh Meekins handball. There's plenty of high-profile examples of Inverness costing us. So, as I say, while it doesn't apply to these players and these managers, we've just got to be as professional as possible and perform.
Yeah, and I'll add one more to your list. The 2002-2003 season under Martin O'Neill, we lost quarter-final up in Inverness in the Scottish Cup. Right, when we were pushing deep into Europe, and obviously made Seville and lost the league on the last day of the season, and lost the League Cup final to Rangers when John Hartson's non-offside goal was called offside. Like, the list goes on. But I would say, Paul, the one difference is we didn't have Ange Postecoglou. And why I say that is because his consistent messages: we will not be complacent, we will not think the more one game ahead, and we will be the most prepared to play the opponent that is in front of us. And that's why I feel very comfortable that these group of players will not take this game lightly. History aside, will not factor into anything that Ange talks about. He essentially he didn't dismiss it in his presser today, but I've been told about that, but I don't think that enters into his thought process, his psyche, and he will have the players primed, ready to go. And like I say, I think the first 10, 15 minutes of the game is going to be absolutely crucial from an Inverness Cali Thistle point of view. Because if we score early, it's going to really put them under a lot of pressure. They're not going to be able to sit in for an entire 90 minutes, because I'll be willing to bet we'll have 80% of the ball if they do that.
Well, that's my next question in terms of team selection and headaches for the manager. We've mentioned that Kyogo hasn't trained with the group all week. Alistair Johnston has trained all week, which is good news. Hopefully he is fit to start. I suppose the only real question is in defence without Carter Vickers. He went with Iwata last weekend. We've talked about how good the performance was, although I don't think Aberdeen mustered a shot on goal. So we weren't tested too much defensively. Do you think he'll go with Iwata on Saturday? And do you think that's the right decision, given that Inverness might defend deep? And there you go. Aye, Iwata.
Sorry, Des, right before we came on, I was putting my starting 11 down. I know you'll be doing your video tomorrow, but yeah, I just feel like, I think Kobayashi is still very much a project, in the sense that he's still very young. I think he of all the players that's come over from Japan, that have been able to start making an impact, I still don't think he's fully embedded himself yet. So I feel like it will be Johnson, Starfelt, Iwata, and Taylor across the back. And I think the midfield 3 picks itself, because Aaron Moy's not available. So it will be McGregor, Hatai, and O'Reilly. I think the front 3 will pick itself. Even if Kyogo's not fit, I think he'll be telling Ange that under no certain circumstances, sir, I need to be in the starting 11. And you know what? I think if he doesn't finish the game, finish the first half, we have more than enough with Haksabanovic, Abada, lots of offensive prowess to come off the bench that could potentially turn the game for us if it isn't going our way. So, yeah, I think that's essentially the two decisions will be Kyogo's fitness and probably who pairs Starfelt in central defence, and I think it will be Awaha.
And Aaron Moy still out means the midfield is picks itself, really, doesn't it?
It really does. Like I say, McGregor will stay in that kind of 6 holding role, and Hatai and O'Reilly in front of him, and then you've obviously got Turnbull that could come off the bench, potentially into the midfield at some point during the game. But I think, that essentially that team is 9 of the 11 have already picked themselves. I think Awai, to be honest, is probably a shoe-in, just because he's such an intelligent player, and I think he seems to be more comfortable on the ball. I know he's not naturally a central defender, but the way Cali are going to set up, it's going to be nine men plus behind the ball. So, at corners and throw-ins will be where they'll be looking to try and sort of take advantage, if you like, of those opportunities. But just got to be switched on, and everything should be fine.
This is live, obviously, as you know, so we've got just under 5 minutes left. We'll open up to questions, so if you want to ask a question about the game or anything else, put it in the live chat box and we'll try and answer it before we go. Chris, I guess the only other question mark is Dyson Maeda, suspended for Aberdeen, of course. Do you bring him straight back in? Do you think he'll go Jota and Maeda wide, or do you think somebody else will get the nod? Abada?
Yeah, I mean, when I flashed it up there, you maybe didn't get to my small handwriting, but I have Jota on the right and Maeda on the left. I just think not, in the Derby games, that's absolutely been Ange's preferred lineup across the front three. But it's just what Maeda brings to his total game and his total effort. But if there was maybe going to be another surprise, it could be that Abada's on the right and Jota's in his own preferred position on the left. But I think, suspension aside, Maeda probably would have started the game last week. So objectively, I'd be shocked if he's not in Ange's starting 11 come tomorrow, just simply because of what he brings, and I think the manager will reward that.
Yeah. A question for Michael, and I don't really want to answer the first half of it. Who would you like to be the next manager? And how big a part does Dermot Desmond play in that decision? One thing we didn't mention earlier, Chris, was that Dermot Desmond was at Celtic Park a week or two ago, pictured with Ange Postecoglou. I mean, that's got to tell you something, because it's not very often that Dermot Desmond comes to Celtic Park for a meeting. So who knows what that was about? Could it have been about this? But before it was really out in public, we don't know. But that is one question that I can't even think about. I can't act as if he's already away and we need to be thinking about the next manager. I'm putting that off for as long as possible.
Yeah, and you and I privately talked about that yesterday. I just don't think, as Celtic fans, we should be acting like he's already gone, because he's not. He's still our manager. His answers, like I said earlier, have been the exact same. Sure, this is probably the most credible link, and the fact that he is conceivably now being positioned as the quote-unquote front runner. But the only eyes in which that matters are Ange's, right? If he still feels he has work to do here, and we talk an awful lot about legacy, right? And if Ange wins a treble, how will he be compared to Martin O'Neill and his 2000-2001 team? And how will Ange's team be compared to Brendan Rodgers' 2016-2017 Invincibles team? That's a great debate that hopefully we'll have post the Cup final. But that debate would be not tarnished, but wouldn't be as fulfilling if Ange has made the decision to leave and take on another role. But I refuse to look at it that he's already gone. I don't even believe that that's true. Gut feeling about whether he stays or not, I genuinely don't think that is even on the table, Paul.
Michael said, I'll put it another way, is Dermot Desmond friendly with Roy Keane? I'm almost certain he is, but that's another movie that we've seen before.
Yes.
Right, Chris, prediction time, I suppose, before we round up.
Okay, so I hadn't really thought about my scoreline prediction, but I'll go 4-0 Celtic. I think it will be a comfortable day, and I'll be extra bold and say Kyogo does score twice, and then I'll look like an incredibly smart human being because I said 35 goals in all competitions about 9 months ago. So there you go.
Correct. That's my one prediction as well. If he gets in the starting lineup, I back him to get a brace and finish in 35, and then we'll see what your crystal ball's got to say about next season. There you go, folks. That's it for this live preview show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us over this last half hour. I'll be back tomorrow with the starting 11 prediction, and then we will be at Hampden for the cup final on Saturday. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.